Hello, everyone. A huge warm welcome to you from Empower. I am Bhagyashree. I'm the founder and director of Empower, and today I will be your interviewee of Katie Stagliano, and it is my big, wonderful pleasure to welcome her today. She is the emerging empowerer of Issue 11. Katie is an awesome, inspiring young person who has been committed to ending hunger on a global scale since she was in the third grade. Katie is the founder and chief gardener of Katie's Crops, an organization that she started when she was inspired to end hunger on a global scale since third grade. She was actually given a homework assignment of planting a cabbage in her garden, and she cared for her cabbage and she was committed to growing it. And surprisingly, her cabbage served 270 people in a soup's kitchen. And Katie was inspired at that age when she was in third grade. It's awesome. It's astonishing. She realized how much power she had as an individual to do something to end hunger on a global scale, and she realized how big of a problem global hunger is. So she started Katie's Crops, and now that organization has grown to a big youth organization which serves so many people who suffer from hunger. And she has many flagship garden under her organization. And today we have Katie with us live, and we will be talking with her about her journey and about her journey and her initiative of ending hunger on a global scale and why it is important and what inspired her to do this amazing job at such a young age. Welcome, Katie. It is really nice meeting you today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I am so excited too. Can you tell us how you're doing today? What time is it now and where are you joining us from?
I am joining y'all from Charleston, South Carolina. It is 11 a.m. here, so the day is just kind of getting started. But it's been a great day so far. The weather is finally cooling down, so it's been a very good day so far.
Oh, it's really nice to know that you're from a very good place. It's really nice to know that the weather is cool and you're joining us from a very good place and that you're very safe during this pandemic. So, Katie, my first question for you is that what was your reaction when you saw that a single cabbage that you grew could serve to 70 people? And what was your reaction at such a young age as a child?
It was honestly astonishing to see how one cabbage grew to be to help feed 275 people. My brother was 4 years old at the time, and my cabbage was bigger than he was. It was literally like this big, and just the whole experience was so eye opening for me, especially being in the third grade, being 9 years old, and not really understanding just how many people were affected by hunger. I think it was so important that my eyes were opened to such a prominent global issue at such a young age to see how many people are affected by hunger and how much I enjoyed growing my cabbage. And then my dad telling me that every night before we sat down to dinner, he would remind me of how lucky and how fortunate we were to be sitting down to a healthy meal, and how there are some families who go to bed hungry or rely on soup kitchens for what might be their only meal of the day. And that really inspired me to donate my cabbage because I thought this cabbage is far too big for my family and I. And there are so many people that I know would really enjoy it. And I found a soup kitchen in my community to donate my cabbage to. And just walking into the soup kitchen and seeing all of the individuals and families that were there. There were children like my brother and I there, and everybody was so incredibly kind. They were so sweet. Everyone gave me hugs and said thank you. And it was just the most wonderful, welcoming feeling. And then being able to go back and serve my cabbage to 275 guests of the soup kitchen was so amazing and got me started on my journey fighting hunger. I thought if one cabbage can feed 275 people, then imagine how many people an entire garden could feed. And so for me, that was really the catalyst of what got me started with my journey with Katie's Crops.
Oh, that's so touching when you said that how one cabbage can feed 270 people. Imagine how many people a garden can feed. And I think that having this thought at such a young age, like you were 9 years old, and just thinking about this at such a young age is very much inspiring. And imagine if every other child thought about this at such a young age, then how big a change could be possible. I'm curious when you express this level of thought and this level of concern for global hunger when you were 9 years old, and I've heard that you told about the statement that how many people could be fed with a single garden when you were in a car with your family. What was their reaction to it? Like little Katie is talking about this big problem and solving this big problem of global hunger, and how did they react to it?
My family has been so incredibly supportive, and I'm just so blessed that they have always encouraged me to follow my dreams. And after seeing my cabbage feed that many people at the soup kitchen, I was so inspired and I was ready to go. And I was like, I want to plant a garden in our backyard because the director of the soup kitchen shared with me just how rare donations of fresh produce are. And they're so important for young children as they're growing up, for senior citizens, for people to fight diseases, to keep off and keep their immunity to things. So it's so, so important for people to be eating healthy, fresh produce. And I had so much fun growing my cabbage. I thought it just only makes sense for me to now take it to the next level and start a whole garden. And when I told my family this, they were 100% behind me. They said, let's go to the store, let's go buy some seedlings. We can plant them where we planted your cabbage. And they never once said, oh, Katie, you are only 9 years old. You really want to take on the issue of hunger. Like, don't you think that you're a little young for that? They never said anything like that. They were always so incredibly supportive and always had my back every step of the way and said, how can we help? And it was just the most amazing thing that at such a young age, they were so encouraging of me because I think that that really is the reason why I've been able to now take this on and make this what I want to do for the rest of my life because of something that happened when I was 9 years old and I had their whole support.
Oh, that I can totally agree with it. If they would have said something along the lines, Katie, you're too young, because that is what some people say, that children are too young to create substantial change in this world. But the amount of support they gave you and the amount of faith that they had in you, that you were committed to actually doing something to achieve your goal, is very much commendable. And I'm really happy for you. I would like to ask you, Katie, how was the process of growing that cabbage? How did you realize that gardening was something that you actually liked, and it can be a cool thing to start planting crops and grow vegetables and fruits?
I had so much fun growing my cabbage, and it's actually funny because we live on a golf course, and so there were deer that were coming in from the woods behind the golf course into our neighbors' yards, and they told me, they said, Katie, like we've had deer eating our shrubs. So I actually called my grandfather who lived down the street, and we constructed a cabbage cage. We put up wooden posts and wrapped chicken wire around it so that nothing would touch my cabbage. And I was so committed. I came out every day after school. I would water, I would weed around it. I just wanted to make sure that it grew and nothing touched it. And the thing that I love the most about gardening is that you really get to see just how you plant one seed and it turns into just this beautiful harvest. And there's something about garden fresh vegetables that just tastes so much better than anything you can get from the store, and especially knowing that you grow it yourself. So I was having so much fun gardening, and I actually got connected with a master gardener in my area who was very knowledgeable about vegetable gardening, and she's been a mentor to me for the past over 10 years now. and has been there to kind of support us, and things that I didn't know about gardening when I first started, she's taught them to me. So I feel like I know a lot more now. But gardening is very much a learn as you go type of thing. It's kind of a trial and error. You try something, you see if it works. And then if that doesn't work next year, you try something else. So it's a lot of fun that way. But I think I always enjoy kind of getting out, getting dirty, and just seeing what I can grow.
Oh, that's really awesome. I can totally understand how it feels to grow something yourself and to watch it grow from a seedling to an actual plant, and then to give it to someone and to watch 270 people grow and to look at their faces and to look at them feel so satisfied, and just to convert it into a very big initiative that is Katie's Crops. I think that is something super amazing, and um it's also very amusing to know that this happened, that the cabbage was so big, it turned out to be so big, and you did all of these little things to protect your cabbage from deer, and you also looked at it after like on each and every day after you return from your school. It's it's really very inspiring, and I can see that level of commitment that you had for your plant, and I can totally see that you loved gardening. I
It
have
was so fun.
yes.
I
Oh, I really like that you enjoyed the work of gardening, because I can see it on your face the way you smile when we talk about gardening. I can totally see it on your face. It just sparks up. I can see it's your passion. I'm actually curious, when you thought about doing something for ending global hunger and you started initiating Katie's Crops in this organization, was there a sense of fear in you that, oh, I am too young to do this, or how will I get gardens for actually starting my initiative? How will I get members for starting this? Because I think many of us, while starting any organization, starting any initiative, we have the sense of fear of failure. Not just failure, but you also have this fear that what if I go wrong? Did you have this fear too, and how did you overcome it?
So I think because I started everything at such a young age, I was kind of blessed in the fact that I hadn't yet grown up enough to the point where I saw the challenges that came along with things. I just saw the opportunities. At 9 years old, I wasn't at all thinking about any of the issues I could run into. And Instead, I was like, I could accomplish this and this and this, and that would be so amazing and it would be so fun. And I think that is the amazing thing about youth, is that youth don't look at things oftentimes for the challenges, because the older you get, the more you see we could run into this problem or this problem or this problem. But when you're younger, that's not the way that your brain works. And so I think that I was blessed being so young and wanting to start this, that I didn't always see the challenges. Instead, I saw the opportunities, or I saw the things that could help me to overcome them. And so that was something that I feel very fortunate about, and I see in all of our youth growers now, is it doesn't matter how young they are so passionate, and they're like, we can do anything that we want to do, and they just put their mind towards it, and they have so much fun doing it, and they don't see the problems that can occur, but instead they see the opportunities.
Oh my God, Katie, you make so much sense. I can relate to it. When you are a child, you can only see all the infinite possibilities. Like I can I can go and reach for the stars, and we mean it. We actually believe in it. I can go and achieve my dreams, and we do not see any scope of failure because we just believe in ourselves. But as time passes by and as we grow older, something horrible happens, and then we can see all of these scopes of failure, and then we try to belittle ourselves and we try to doubt our potential. But I agree with you. You were very fortunate that you started this initiative at a very, very young age where there was no scope for self doubt or that fear of failure, because you had this you had a broader scope. You had faith in yourself, and you were committed and you were passionate about something, and that is what is needed to actually initiate any project, and that is what can lead to infinite possibilities. Oh, that makes a lot of sense. A lot of sense. So, Katie, can you tell us how did you find and start your first flagship garden, and what it is like? What is your flagship garden like?
So the very first flagship garden I had was at the elementary school that I went to. And the elementary school that I went to was actually kindergarten through 12th grade. So people could go there, start and finish from that school. And that was where I had my first flagship garden. I was in the fourth grade and I wrote a letter to the headmaster of my school and I said, this is what I want to do. I would love to start a garden here. And they gave me a plot of land the size of a football field. And they said, "This is your garden." I was in the fourth grade. I was like, "Oh my goodness, this is amazing." I had all this plot of land. I could do anything that I wanted with it. So, our first flagship garden was there. It was beautiful. I got to engage the students at the school. And it was so heartwarming that at such a young age that my school supported me and that they saw the value and what I wanted to do. And I was able to really garner support from the community and kind of reach out to people. It was kind of divine intervention. Everything happens for a reason. I'm a firm believer in that. And people from my community began to kind of hear about what I was doing and they began to offer their help and support. There was one gentleman who offered his John Deere tractor to come help us till the garden out, and I remember that was my first ever experience driving was on this tractor and kind of helping to get the land ready to plant there. And people would just offer, they would say, "Oh, I have this tool if you need that." And so it all worked out very well. It came together wonderfully, and it was really just everything happens for a reason because had everything not come together so perfectly when I was in the fourth grade, who knows if I would have kept on the trajectory that I was on. But because it did, it really motivated me and made me want to do more. And now we actually have moved our flagship garden from that school to a local church in our community called Crossroads Community Church. And so the garden there, believe it or not, is actually bigger than the first flagship garden we have. It's almost the size of two football fields at this point. So it's very exciting to kind of see how much we are growing and still engaging the community and being able to have people of all ages come up. We have an outdoor classroom up there too now where we do educational programming. So it's just crazy to see how much we've grown.
It is wonderful that you got your first flagship garden in elementary school, and I can see a lot of bravery and enthusiasm when you said that you wrote this letter to the headmaster of your school to ask for a piece of land, and he actually gave you this piece of land the size of football field, and I can totally imagine how happy you would be to have this entire piece of land for yourself, for actually doing what you wanted to do there, and then to have this help by some person who helped you with his tractor and driving on it at such a young age. It is thrilling and it is also very gratifying to know all of this. And it's amazing how much you've grown from being 9 years old and starting your first flagship garden and having this another garden which is much bigger than that. Katie, I want to know, and I think so many other young people want to know, how have your roles changed in Katie's crops? How did you navigate through it in the beginning? I presume that you might have had to juggle through many duties and many roles in the beginning, but now perhaps your roles would be limited with the help of other young people or other members in your team. And how have the roles changed? Do you work in the administrative and marketing part right now, or do you still work on the field work and in the gardens right now?
So when I was younger, I definitely didn't have all of the expertise to fill all the roles necessary to kind of build Katie's crops up. I was incredibly passionate about it. I loved I loved helping others, and that was something that I really enjoyed doing. And that was something that I was very great at when I was younger. And my parents were really amazing in the fact that they were able to support me and able to take on the roles that at 9 years old I couldn't quite do yet. My mom has been amazing. She and I are the only employees of Katie's Crops. And so while I was in school, from elementary school all the way through graduating college, she has been the president of Katie's Crops and dealing with things that I couldn't deal with while I was trying to balance school and doing this. And we have also have an amazing group of volunteers, that core volunteers that come out and have helped to maintain the garden. We also do meal distributions with our produce, and we have a core group of volunteers that help with the meal distribution as well. So, a core group of volunteers has been key. My parents stepping up and really taking the roles that I couldn't do while I was in school. And when I was 9 years old, I wasn't quite at the point where I could help make financial decisions and things like that. And so their support was amazing. And now that I have graduated college, I am working for Katie's Crops full time. I'm so excited. This is what I'll be doing with my life now. And I have been able to step into more roles now. So I think now I do more than I ever have before, because I no longer have to focus on my studies in school, and I get to just do what I love full time. So I am very hands on with gardening still. Yesterday I was in the garden for 5 hours doing work, which was so fun. And then I'm also very hands on in the administrative part as well, and kind of doing a little bit of social media, a little bit of marketing, answering emails, things like that. It's really just my mom and I on our core team, and then we have incredible growers across the country who are doing their part in their communities, and we have amazing volunteers. But in terms of a huge team, we don't have one yet. It's just my mom and I, but we are working on expanding and growing and making this into something that will grow even more now that I have the time to be fully committed 24/7 to doing what I love. It's very exciting to see just how, since I've graduated college, the new programs that we've been able to add. We have been able to add our outdoor classroom program since I graduated, and that's been something that I've been able to focus on so often. And so I am excited to see what else we'll be able to do with this extra time that I have now.
I am so happy for you, honestly, that now that you have graduated, you have all the time to actually do what you love. And I'm happy that you're also hands-on in the field of gardening as well as administrative work, because gardening is what essentially gives you a lot of happiness. And that is also what is the core part of Katie's crops. And I'm happy that you have got so many dedicated volunteers who also love the work that you do, and now you have support of your parents, and now you also have this advantage of your education. And I'm also very happy that in your childhood you had support of your sister and your family who handled the financial part when you weren't quite acquainted with it. I'm quite happy for that, and it feels great to actually gain your education and then to graduate from college and to actually do something that you've always wanted to do full time. I'm really happy for you. Um, I would like to know the process. How do people volunteer for your gardens, and how many growers are there around the country? Is it like a nationwide project or a statewide project or a global project? And what are your plans for Katie's crops in the future?
So we have different ways that people can get involved. We have our growers, which are youth between the ages of 7 and 16, that can apply to become a grower. They start a garden in their community. We provide them with the support that they need to make this possible, and then they donate all the produce from the gardens that they grow to those struggling with hunger and food insecurity in their community. So that is a way that we involve youth. And currently, we are trying to get gardens to all 50 states in the United States, and then move to having more gardens internationally. Right now, we do have two gardens in Africa, which is amazing, and they do quite well over there, which is so exciting. And we would love to have even more international gardens. So that's definitely something in the near future for us, is to continue expanding internationally, as well as to continue to expand in the United States. And then we have we also do our Seeds for Change program, where we send seeds to individuals and families. And this is something we started during the pandemic because a lot of people were in lockdowns, they couldn't do anything, and we wanted to provide a fun, healthy, safe outlet for people so that they could plant some seeds in pots in their house, in their windowsill, in their backyard, things like this, and then help their community as well. So that's another program that we did. And we have locally, for people that are in the South Carolina, Charleston area, they can come out and volunteer with us for our gardens and for our meal distributions. And as for gardens across the United States and also our international gardens as well, it's kind of up to the particular growers about whether or not they want to reach out to their community and get more people involved in coming to help. I know right now it's kind of in flux because we still have COVID going around and we still want people to be safe. So it's kind of up to everyone how they go about that. But there are so many different ways to get involved. We also have people that can kind of reach out to us via our websites, which is just katiescrops.com, both with the K, and they can get in contact with us that way. We're always happy to offer gardening advice, talk to people about what they're doing, and offer our support. And then people can reach out to us. We have an Amazon wish list on our website of items that we need for the garden. And then obviously monetary donations help as well. But we try to make it so that there's a way for everyone to get involved. And if we aren't able to offer people with a donation to kind of get started with their garden, we can definitely offer them support from our master gardener, answer any questions they may have. So, yeah.
That sounds so cool. You are running so many programs through Katie's Crops, and the fact that you're making an effort to have each and every person involved in your organization is is really motivating. And that person can be from any part of the country, any part of the world, and you just need to have that passion to grow crops and to practice sustainable agriculture and to do something to end hunger. I would like to know, there must have been so many moments, so many gratifying moments where you would have fed, just like the cabbage soup, you would have fed food to those who are suffering from hunger. And you would have had some very gratifying, beautiful, and delicate reactions from them. Can you share those reactions and those stories with us where people were grateful to you? They were overwhelmed with gratitude, and they were very happy to receive food and to receive it from such passionate young people. How does it feel to just get these gratifying reactions which help you keep going?
It has been amazing. I think my absolute favorite part of Katie's Crops is how close I have grown with all the individuals, all the families and people that I have come to help. They are really like a second family to me, and it's so just amazing to have. I've literally grown up with them. I mean, some of these people have seen me graduate middle school, high school, and now college, and we celebrated birthdays and anniversaries and been there for triumphs, and then been there when things aren't so good as well. And so I think that relationship with them has just been my absolute favorite part of my work. And there are so many fun stories of people. We have so many people that come through our meal distributions that we do, where we kind of take vegetables from the gardens, we prepare them into meals, and then they're free to anyone in need in the community. And we've had actually so many people come through that have decided that they want to start a garden as well. There's these two adorable little girls. They are both 7 years old, and they were so excited to come through the meal distribution, and they actually applied to become Katie's Crops growers. So now they have their own garden and they get to donate the produce to those in need of the community. And they could not be more excited about it, that they are kind of able to make a difference, and they see where the produce is going because they themselves are recipients of it as well. So it's so cool getting people that are recipients getting the produce involved. They have been amazing. They love coming out. We've people come out to the gardens. We've had people help at the dinners before. And the gardens have also really helped to connect all of these individuals and families with one another. We had a gentleman who, when we had a garden at one of our local homeless shelters, he was such a huge help in the garden. He loved the garden, would come out all the time. And he used the garden kind of as a form of therapy and like rehabilitation for himself. And he had been estranged from his daughter, and he actually reached out to his daughter and told her about what he'd been doing with the garden and the progress he'd been making. And he actually reconnected with his daughter just through the garden. She came out to see it, and it was such a special and touching moment to see how he was helping himself. He was helping those at the shelter get food, and it really reconnected him with his family. And it was so cool to see just how many fun lessons can come from the garden, and just it's so much more than just growing produce, because there is just so many things that I think people can learn from gardening, and it's so neat to see the way that it can really change people's lives.
That was very touching, and it would feel so gratifying to see such stories that a person who was estranged from his daughter, he actually found peace in the garden and he was able to reconnect with her. And that how you have grown up from elementary school to middle school to high school and then college, all through Katie's Crops and with these amazing people who have been with you through both good and bad times, and how they have become a part of your family. I can totally understand that this is the best part of your work, which comes with all of the hard work, with all of the ups and downs, and which actually keeps you going with the work that you do at Katie's Crops. It's really amazing to hear this and to know what an impact that you have had since you thought of this idea at when you were 9 years old, and you actually thought of executing it. And now, when you've grown up, we can see the huge amount of impact that this has created. It's, it's really a wonderful moment for so many other young people like you to realize that we have the potential to actually do something to end global hunger. Talking of global hunger, can you tell us how big of a problem hunger is? Something that we do not even realize that it could be us standing in the line waiting for food any time of the year, any day. It could be us too. And it is important to understand the gravity of the problem. And you know it very well. Can you explain
I,
it to us?
yeah, so I think growing up doing my work with Katie's Crops, I have really come to understand how, one, how big of an issue hunger is, but also there has been so many stereotypes around people that are struggling with hunger, with homelessness, with food insecurity, that they put themselves in that situation, that it's their own fault. And it's so heartbreaking to see that, because that couldn't be farther from the truth. I have come to know so many of these people that I help through Katie's Crops and kind of hear their stories. And it's really just people who have fallen down on hard times. There's individuals who are having to choose between paying medical bills or putting food on the table, or their home burns down and suddenly now they're homeless, or they lose their job. We've had great grandparents who are responsible for taking care of their great grandkids, and they're not in good enough health to be working. I mean, there are so many different situations that cause people to rely on soup kitchens, to rely on emergency food programs, and to just be down on their luck. And I think that kind of recognizing you never know what someone else is going through until you walk in their shoes. We next door neighbor who lived in such a beautiful house, and they were just the sweetest couple. And from the outside, you would look and you would think that they were doing wonderful and that they must be so fortunate, when in fact their home was being foreclosed on and they couldn't put food on the table. But with if you just drove by their house, you would have no idea how much they were struggling. And I think that has been something that I've learned a lot, that appearances can really be deceiving. Someone can be driving a really nice car, but they can't afford to make the payments on it. and they may be living in their car. You just don't know what someone else is going through. And I think it's so important that people realize just how anyone can fall down on hard times, how it could have been my family in line at the soup kitchen. And it would have meant so much to me to see someone who wanted to help out, who wasn't judgmental or anything, just wanted to be kind to us and lend a helping hand. And so that is always what I try to do because you really never know what somebody else is going through. And so I think that's just the biggest lesson I've learned in everything I try to stress to others is to just always be there. If there's any way that you can help a neighbor in need, just to always do it because you never know what someone else is going through. And it you can really change someone's life with just one small action.
That was very touching, Katie. You really make a lot of sense when you say that appearances can really be very deceptive. You never know what the other person is going through. When you can see that the person is living in a very good fancy home, but the home is closed down and they are facing this issue of hunger, and there are some people out there who are who face eating disorders. So there are some people who cannot even manage to get food on their plate, and they have to choose between medicines and their family members and food. It's it's really heartbreaking that you might never know who would that person be who would be struggling with this problem of hunger, and someday what if it would have even been you. It is very important to put ourselves in someone else's shoes to understand the gravity of the problem. And I feel very happy that you have understood and you have empathized with those people so well that it just sparks through your work, the initiative, Katie's Crops, and it just sparks through all that you have learned along the way. And I think that is the most beautiful part of your work, that you're able to empathize with other people, you're able to meet new people, to learn their stories, and to get so many new perspectives at such a young age. And there's this last question that I would like to ask you. How has Katie's Crops changed you as a person? How is your life? Can you imagine your life without Katie's Crops? And what is the one thing that has always kept you going through your initiative, through all the ups and downs that come along with it?
So I think it's so hard to imagine my life without Katie's Crops. I mean, this has been such an important part of my life since I was 9 years old, and I'm 23 now. And just to think how much I have grown as a person, I mean, both figuratively and literally, I have grown up with all of these amazing people, and I have grown up in the garden. So, going through elementary school, middle school, high school, and college, and just being in such close contact with these amazing people and being out in the garden, doing our meal distributions. I think one, it has kind of shaped me into a person who's more comfortable being a leader. When I was younger, it might not have necessarily been the first thing I would have thought, oh, like when I grow up, I'm going to kind of be leading this organization and doing this. But I think growing up in the position that I was in and getting to work with Katie's Crops, I feel so fortunate that it really has shaped me into a leader. I feel a lot more confident in my gardening abilities now. I feel a lot more confident just kind of bringing people together and knowing that one small action can make a difference. I think it's definitely boosted my confidence, and I've seen just the difference that youth are able to make and that we're able to make kind of when we work together. I know that hunger is such a huge issue, but I am a firm believer that if we work together and we approach the issue from kind of all different directions, that we can make a huge impact in the fight against hunger. And so I think just growing up with Katie's Crops has really solidified that belief for me because I've seen the difference that youth are able to make, and I've seen the impact it makes in people's lives. So it's definitely just turned me into a more confident person, into a leader, and into someone who is a firm believer that everything happens for a reason, and when you follow your heart, there's nothing that you can't do. And I think the thing that keeps me going through all of it is just the amazing people I've helped and the connections I have with them. I cannot imagine my life without that incredible second family. And so getting to spend so much time with them, I feel so fortunate that they've come into my life and that I'm able to be there and support them, and that they're able to be there and support me and kind of watch me continue to grow up. So they keep me going through everything. And I think it's definitely been a learning process with Katie's Crops, but I feel like I've also learned so much outside of the classroom with Katie's Crops and have so much real world experience now at 23 because of everything that I've gone through. So it's been an incredible journey and I'm really excited for the future.
That was phenomenal, Katie. It's You're really exemplifying that we never know what surprises life can give you. If it wasn't for the homework assignment that the teacher gave you in third grade, you would have never went into the entire field of gardening, and you would have never grown a cabbage, which would have served 270 people, and you would have never realized that you wanted to start the Katie's Crops, and you were actually passionate about something, and then you wouldn't have had all of these connections and these wonderful stories, and you wouldn't have had Katie's Crops, and this is the surprise that life gives you, and it is incredible, and it is very important to note that you actually stayed firm with your goals and you believed in yourself when you were 9, and that is what has made this Katie at 23 years old, who is very grateful and who is very satisfied and who is very happy with what she's doing at Katie's Crafts. It is phenomenal, Katie. It is very inspiring too for all the young people, including me, to see what you're doing, especially in this world that we live that is facing these dangers like climate change and global warming. It is really important to do something that practices sustainability and to address at least one of the sustainable development goals by United Nations, which you are already doing. Very proud of you, Katie. It was a big pleasure to have you here with us. It was a big honor for me to actually have this conversation with you. If it wouldn't have been for Empower, I would have never got this opportunity to actually have this conversation with you, to learn about your story. So thank you very, very much for joining us. And thank you to all of those who tuned in for this interview. Katie is an absolutely wonderful, inspiring person, and she is a wonderful leader overall I have ever seen in my life. And I wish you all the very best for everything that you do with Katie's Crops. And I hope you keep on meeting new wonderful people and keep growing your connections and keep doing the amazing work that you do. So this was Katie. She was our emerging empower, and we are really grateful to have us here. Thank you so much, Katie.
Thank you. It was so amazing to be here. I had so much fun and I'm so grateful to be able to share my story with you.
Thank you so much for tuning into this interview. I'm really grateful to you. And we hope that you keep on doing the work that you do and you get all the success with it. Thank you so much, Katie.